Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 245 of the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I'm the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I am joined, as always, by our director of scouting, the man you call when you want to close out a sweep, Ian Kundle. Ian, interesting weekend in Boston sports, particularly with the Red Sox. There's issues, but to me, I don't want to sound the alarms quite yet.
You don't want to panic yet?
Because I'm seeing
I'm seeing a lot of panic. It's yeah.
You would think they were not 7-10. You would think they were like 3 and whatever it would be. 14.
Well, I think it's because the only series they've won so far was against a team that's probably not that good in Detroit.
True.
And every series against what's supposed to be a competitive team, they've lost. And the way they're losing it's kind of predictable with the concerns about the roster construction. Mm-hmm. It's lack of run scoring from the bottom of the order or run production, and then bad bullpenning. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I think that is the combo that aggravates fans the most, is when you can't score or you're blowing leads late.
Yep. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what the team might be able to do to fix at least the lineup. And we'll go from there. And of course, Ian went to Portland this past weekend. So we're going to talk about what he saw at the games at Hadlock Field. But before we do that, we want to let you know, if you want to support the podcast, you can do it a couple ways. First, rate, review, tell a friend, get the word out wherever you listen to the show. If you could rate and review, do it there, and tell a friend, tell everyone on Twitter, tell your aunt, tell your cousin, spread the word. We always appreciate that. And of course, you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. You pledge a certain amount per episode, get some neat perks like the Patreon game updates. All of our game updates that Ian did from spring training are up. We're going to have some coming from Ian's trips to Portland and or Worcester. We'll see how those break out based on what he's seen. And we'll go from there. I probably should do one based on my notes from spring training now that all yours are up, just kind of filling in gaps that I saw, because I saw some stuff that Ian didn't see. So we'll get that up as well. And of course, we're actually getting closer to our stretch goal of $350 per episode. If we hit that, the two of us are going to watch the Bad News Bears and break down from a baseball perspective the players in that movie. So $350, you get a Bad News Bears Patreon episode special. So, another reason to tell a friend to support the show. But Ian, let's get right into it. Let's start up in Boston, because that's top of mind for me right now. The Red Sox lost tonight to drop to 7-10 in their first game up in Toronto. And, for all, as much as everyone wanted to be up in arms about the whole Toronto and who was going to be able to make it up to Toronto thing and COVID vaccinations and all of that, because heck, it's a hot button topic everywhere. Right. But I think you've got it right. There's two things. Well, I think it gets back to something that we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is that this team did not feel complete. Right. When you look at what's not working, it's the player, like you said, the players hitting at the bottom of the order and or the bench. We could probably just say right now, like Travis Shaw, his contract becomes guaranteed on May 15th. What would you put the odds are on him hitting May 15th?
0%.
There's no chance.
And this is unfortunately, I feel like they kind of just were stuck with him in a weird way. Like what we saw in spring training, and you can confirm, his bat looked ridiculously slow in spring training.
Right.
And he just couldn't hit anything then. I think, he has 3 hits if you combine spring training and the regular season. All of them were in 2 spring training games. Other than that, he doesn't have a single hit this year, in calendar year.
Right.
And it's a great story. He's had a great career, especially given where he was drafted, how much he signed for. But I think that ship has sailed, and he at this point is not helping the Red Sox in any capacity. And in fact, I think it's actually he's hurting them with his performance on the field.
Because what can you use him for?
Nothing.
It's literally a wasted roster spot. And Rob Refsnyder is up with the club right now.
I'd rather have Rob Refsnyder on the team than Shaw right now. And I don't think Rob Refsnyder's a major leaguer really either. But
and if it's not for the thing we're about to talk about, get Franchy Cordero back up right now for Travis Shaw, to me.
Yeah, but
But
I mean,
if it's not for the thing we're about to say.
I think the reason they're not making a move like that though is that it's the player control thing. Like if they have to add, they know they can DFA Shaw and it doesn't really matter. If they add Franchi Cordero and DFA him, they might lose him.
Yeah.
So that's where I think, you run into the issue. If you don't want to add someone for that spot that you have any concern about losing. Which is why the person who I think they should add for, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is someone who you won't be removing, so it won't matter.
Well, I mean, let's go there if we're alluding to it. So the first item on the discussion board today is, when is it time to pull the trigger on Tristan Casas?
Yeah,
Casas, and this has been an item of discussion on the Sox Prospects Brass Slack for heavily discussed for the past 5 days, maybe.
Yeah.
Has come up prior to that, just kind of in passing. And it's, just to provide the context. So Tristan Casas in 17 games in Worcester so far this year, as the night we record, hitting 262, 395, 508 for a 903 OPS. He's got 4 bombs in 17 games, 13 walks to 16 Ks.
141 WRC Hus.
Yep. Solid across the board. Solid numbers.
Yeah.
It's not video game numbers, but at the same time, 22-year-old in AAA.
He's no Ceddanne Rafaela when it comes to those numbers.
He's not Ceddanne Rafaela, but it's
very solid numbers given his age and
it's solid. Absolutely.
The level he's playing at.
With it. Getting to play every day after a year in which his season got broken up 3 different times. It's great. I have put it this way. I was worried that what if he comes out doing just okay, but Marcelo Meyer is crushing it in Salem? I have no qualms about swapping him and Marcelo Meyer right now. He's my number 1 prospect, no question. The question is, when do you bring him up? And I know where you fall. I am still working it through in my head. Why don't I just cede the floor to you? And I think I've got the counter argument to why you don't do that. But why don't you just go ahead with what you would do right now, how you would work it at the MLB level, and why?
So, I think what it comes down to is when you're looking at the Red Sox current lineup, you basically have 6 guys, and then you have the first baseman, the right fielder, and the catcher. And the second baseman, I guess, too. So it's really 5 guys right now.
The thing with the second baseman is you're not doing anything with the second baseman.
No.
Right.
So it's
Story's staying in the line.
Oh, no. I guess it's the center fielder now. I was thinking of Kike Hernandez.
Oh, okay.
But
yep.
Yeah, so I guess it's the center fielder.
Yeah.
But you can't really. But
four.
He'll figure. I'm pretty confident that Hernandez will figure it out. And Story, I just think that he's running the same issue that Carlos Correa is, that they didn't have spring training.
Right.
Right. They don't have their timing down. He started hitting the ball a little better lately. Mm-hmm. But the Red Sox currently are running basically 3 guaranteed outs in every lineup. And when the top of the order outside of Devers, Bogarts, and JD Martinez, who hasn't been playing obviously of late, but other than those guys, who am I forgetting?
Verdugo.
Oh, Verdugo, of course. Other than those guys, the rest of the lineup is really struggling. And when Hernandez, Story, JD Martinez isn't playing, it magnifies when you're playing, Bobby Dahlbeck, Christian Vasquez, Jackie Bradley, Christian Arroyo, guys like that, Travis Shaw. And first base is a run producing position. And right now the Red Sox have the worst first base production of any team in baseball. And I don't think it's that close. And I think they have 1 RBI from first base this year. I want to say,
I know they have like you said, they have the worst first base production in the league.
Oh no, they have 2 RBIs from first base this year, but it's what it was is Dahlbeck had not driven in a runner until yesterday's game.
Oh, because he had solo home runs.
Yeah, he had 1 solo home run.
Solo home run.
Okay. Yeah. But and so the question is, how do you upgrade the lineup? Because obviously they're really struggling on offense. I think they've scored under 3 runs in the last 6 games or something. And the only clear pathway to me is by Tristan Casas coming up and playing first base every day. And I think that is kind of a multiple effect in that I don't think you're pulling the plug on Bobby Dahlbeck yet. I understand he's really struggled. I mean, his numbers, his strikeout rate, he's got the 7th worst whiff rate in all of baseball. Not strikeouts, but just swing and miss.
Swing and miss. Yep.
Because I understand his strikeout rate is down, but I think that's what's causing that is that with 2 strikes, he's now actually choking up and trying to just put the ball in play. He's not
And his chase rate is also bad too. And that's
Yeah,
what
it's
compounds
just
it.
that his chase rate and his whiff rate, which is just overall swing and misses, are still very high, like among the highest in baseball. So even though the strikeout rate is down some and down some is 29%, it's not like he's still swinging and missing a ton. He's hitting 154, 214, 269. Do I think he's got a little bit unlucky? Yes. His BABIP is 200. He's hitting the ball like reasonably hard. His average exit velocity is like 52nd percentile. Max is 62nd. Hard hit rate 67th percentile. So he's getting a little unlucky. But at the end of the day, the only clear path to upgrade any of those positions I think they have internally right now is first base, because catcher Connor Wong, Ronaldo Hernandez are not upgrades offensively on Vasquez. Right field, if you can maybe say you want to try Jarren Duran out there, but Jarren Duran's defense is atrocious. I don't know if you saw that throw he made in Worcester. He like 7-hopped at home. And this was like a try to throw a guy out at the plate throw. And his defense is not that good. I don't want him in right field, frankly. And also he hits left-handed too. So it's you can't pair him with Jackie Bradley. So that doesn't really work there. And so you're stuck with first base. And Casas is, as you said, he's not lighting the world on fire, but I mean, he's hitting 262. OBP is almost 400, slugging over 500. I find it hard to believe that he could be worse than Dalbec. And this is why I don't think it's going to happen, though, is because that's not a good reason to call him up, basically saying he can't be worse. The reason you call him up is you think he's ready to be a legitimate big league performer. And I don't know if the Red Sox think he is or not. If I had to guess, I would guess they probably don't think he's ready yet. But I look at what they're doing and I don't see another pathway. And maybe, I guess it is, maybe the other option would be try Franchi at first base. But Dalbec's defense has been an issue. I mean, we saw it with the game lost to the Rays. Like, I don't want Franchi at first base either. Like, if we're slightly concerned, that's where I was going with that. If we're concerned about Dalbec's defense, I thought you
were going to say about Dalbec's defense being bad. I mean, that was a bad play.
No, I'm just saying that, like, if you're worried about plays like that, like, I don't want Franchi playing first base, where he's barely played there this year. And the other thing with Franchi is, if you look, do you know what a strikeout rate in AAA is right now?
Whatever 21 divided by
it's over 30%. It's like just over 30%. Like, he's swinging and missing a ton too. And while he might be an upgrade on Travis Shaw, I just think that at this point, Casas might give them the best chance for production and to win at that position. And when you're doing that, it frees Dalbec up also. Like, I'm not saying that they need to remove Dalbec from the lineup entirely. He can play. They've been trying him in the outfield. He could play some left field. He could maybe play a little DH if JD's down, or if JD wants to play the outfield one day. He could play some. He could spell Devers at third base. He could spell Casas against tough lefties. Like, he would still get a lot of at bats and give him a chance to get out of the slump. But I just think that Casas is really the only internal upgrade they have available. And if you were trying to spark the lineup, which I think it needs, I think it's kind of flat right now. And I think they need something to kind of get everyone a little fired up. I think Casas is the one move that could do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the guys who are hitting and what their K rates are in Worcester, they have a number of guys who are performing very well. One was Ref Snyder, who is now up, right? I mean, adding Ref Snyder to the roster made a lot of sense. Yeah. What they needed when Jonathan Aruz went on the COVID-19 IL, right? Bringing Ref Snyder up to take that spot made sense, because you've got Arroyo can handle the infield, get Ref Snyder up to be the backup for the outfield, right? Ref Snyder hitting really well. He was hitting 400, 551, 600 in 11 games, right? With a K rate of just 16%. Cool. Who else is hitting? Ryan Fitzgerald is hitting 291 average, 355 on base, 691 slugging. He has 5 bombs on the year. Strikeout rate, 30.6%. Still a lot of swing and miss there. He's not walking much, 8% walk rate. There's more to do there with Fitzgerald.
And he's never going to walk much. Like, that's right in line with his career average. If you look at his walk rate, like, he's just not he's going up there to hit. And he hits the ball really hard. Yeah. And that's the thing, is he's always going to have swing and miss, because his approach is he's not going to get cheated. He's going up there to hit the ball as hard and as far as possible every time. And I think what that's going to do is, especially as he's, getting exposed to more advanced pitching, his strikeout rate is going to be it's going to be in the 25 to 30% range. I think. I don't think that's coming down much. I mean,
No.
you look, he's at over 100 plate appearances in AAA with like a 28% K rate. So I think that's right around what it's kind of going to be.
Yeah. And then you look at Duran has 7 games because he missed 10 days because he got COVID. And then when he came back, he like played 2 games and then sat for 2 days. So I don't know if that was residual symptoms or something or what. Who knows? I'm not to speculate. It's just who knows why he sat for 2 days. Jeter Downs, we've talked about him. Although it's better, it's not the train wreck it was the first week. He's still not hitting well. Yolmer Sanchez is interesting. Yolmer Sanchez is hitting 333, 456 on base, 611 slugging. He went from hitting in the bottom of the order to start the year that he's hitting in the middle of the order now.
He also has significant major league experience, so that might be the one because he's
but what do you do with him?
Right. That's the issue is he plays.
You're not going to sit Trevor Story. You're not going to, I mean, where's he going to play?
And I don't think he's played any outfield, right?
No, he's an infielder.
Yeah.
And so the positions he plays are second, third, short. Those are spoken for, right? So Yolmer Sanchez isn't going to help you right now. Sanchez, if you're going to tell me that they're going to send Jonathan Aruz down or DFA him and call up Yolmer Sanchez,
that's fine with
infielder,
me. Whatever.
Sure. I'm down with that. Let's do it. That's cool. Because Jonathan Aruz is just kind of a roster spot right now.
He's fine. He's an up and down utility depth player.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's an up and down guy who's
a soft 40. Yeah.
Or
he's a soft 40.
Maybe he's got options.
No, he has options. He has options,
but they would need his 40-man spot is where I'm going with that. And like you said, Franchi Cordero has a 30% strikeout rate. Christian Stewart has a 29% strikeout rate. Jarren Duran has barely played. So there's just not a lot else there than Casas. I get that. To me, the thing is, like one of the points I made to you that you've already kind of addressed is I don't want to just have Tristan Casas be the one whose at bats get taken away.
You mean Dahlbeck, not Tristan Casas?
Thank you. Bobby Dahlbeck. Sorry. I don't want Bobby Dahlbeck to be the only one who loses at bats, not from like a fairness perspective or something, but because when I look at the players in this lineup who are not hitting, if I told you coming into the year, Jackie Bradley's not going to hit, you would have nodded your head. Yeah, he didn't hit last year either, right? Okay. If I told you coming into the year, Christian Arroyo's not going to hit, it's like, okay, he's the kind of utility bench guy. We can work through that. The problem is it's not like Tristan Casas. Tristan Casas is first base only. He's not no chance outfield. And it's not like you would want him to play third base, but the third base ship, I think, is kind of sailed too. I would like Dahlbeck to get some run in the outfield. Personally, I would like him to get a little bit of run out there. I'm not confident that it'll work. I'd like to try. I don't know what he has looked like in workouts. And honestly, I didn't see him playing it much in spring training. The reason they haven't done it yet in Boston to me is in part because, like, what are you going to do? Move him to the outfield to play Travis Shaw at first base? No. Like, why would you? He has to play first base with the way the roster is constructed currently. But I would like to see him based on the things like he's hitting balls very hard when he hits them. That's the Bobby Dahlbeck thing. That's what he does. He hits the ball hard. The problem is the whiff. His whiff rate is high, but he's not striking out as much. So it's almost like he's getting unlucky with balls in play a little bit, although his infield fly rate is spiked so far. The thing is, it's so early in the year, you can't make a whole lot out of balls in play data yet. It hasn't. It's not nearly a big enough sample size, but it seems like he might be getting unlucky on balls in play, but he's also seemingly getting luckier as far as his whiff rate not translating to strikeouts. Like you said, could be a change in the 2-strike approach. But it seems like he should be striking out more than he is because he's got like only a 25% strikeout rate, which I will take, or I think it's up to 28 now. I'll take that out of Bobby Dahlbeck. You kidding me?
Yeah, like under 30% is fine for him.
I'm fine with under 30%.
It's just,
the problem is it's not translating to offense right now, which is unique.
Well, no, and it's also that he's swinging missing early in the count and then making weak contact or, getting unlucky with 2 strikes. Like, and this is, and it's not all on him. It comes down to like, if, Enrique Hernandez has a 77 WRC plus right now, like Trevor Story 74. If those guys are at their career averages,
this isn't even, we're not talking about this.
No, because like, especially because I don't think Bradley's been that bad. Like he's at a 90 WRC plus. He's got a 300, 320 OBP. Like
he's hitting 6th right now because they have no one else.
If you told me Jackie Bradley would hit 220, 320, 350 this year, I'd be like, yeah, that's great. Like perfectly acceptable. You know what I mean? Like For him, that's fine.
Well, hold on. It's acceptable in a lineup where Trevor Story and Keegan
right.
Hernandez are also
That's my
hitting.
point, though.
Exactly.
That's my point, though. Like if he's your 9 hitter and he gives you a 300, an above 300 OBP, and is hitting like 220, 230, that's fine. Like, but that's assuming the rest of the lineup is carrying their weight, and that's the issue. Is right now it's not. Like Bogarts, JD, Verdugo, Devers are carrying their weight.
Yep.
Story, Hernandez are not, and Christian Vasquez has been atrocious offensively.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And
they're not getting anything out of two positions.
You're not getting any.
Can't do anything about
right now. You're not getting anything out of Dahlbeck, Vasquez, the bench, or like Hernandez and Story are both struggling too. Like that's just too much. There's too many zeros in the lineup for a team where, the starting pitching has been, I think, surprisingly good. I would say, but
most of them.
But the bullpen is a major issue too, and the situation is magnified by what's going on in Toronto right now, where they're missing two of their pitchers, which is causing a reshuffle of the roles where Garrett Whitlock's not available in the bullpen because he's starting right now, which you can make the case that he should be starting full time, which I think he should be.
If you want to go there, I could have that discussion too. Maybe we save that for next time.
But yeah, like with no Cutter Crawford and Whitlock having to start because Houck's not there. Like you saw what happened tonight, you had Tyler Danish pitching in the 8th inning in a leverage game, and it's because the bullpen is just they're just overused. Like they don't trust enough guys there, and the end result is what you got tonight, where you're bringing Tyler Danish in a leverage situation like that.
Well, and is it that they're overused, or is it just that
no, it's just they have guys they don't like. He seems like a lovely guy, but I don't know what Sourmore is doing on the roster. Like,
yeah,
Sourmore has not pitched since the 21st. So he hasn't pitched. He didn't pitch any of the weekend Rays games, and then he didn't pitch today.
Nope. So
they don't trust him at all in a close game. Like, what is the point of having him on the roster? Like, and the same thing applies. Like, Brazier. Like Brazier has been awful this season.
Brazier is pitching his way out of a roster spot.
Right. And so it's like, that's two righties right there that are just not pitching well at all. And then you look like, Diekman threw yesterday. He wasn't throwing today. Valdez threw yesterday and was bad. He's not, but he's been good this year. I'll cut him some slack. Barnes threw yesterday. Like they just don't have enough horses back there. Well,
let's work through the bullpen. Matt Strahm has been very good.
Yeah.
I like Matt Strahm.
Yeah. He had a rough day today, but he's been reliable.
Hansel Robles has been reliable, but they're like setup man reliable.
Yes.
There's no lockdown closer, right? Jake Diekman, fine.
He's going to have a blow up game because his command is bad, but he's fine. Yeah.
Phillips Valdez, for what he is, has been very good.
If he's your emergency depth guy, sixth inning, or blowout guy, just go out there and throw 2 innings. That's fine.
So that's 4 guys I'm comfortable with. Then you're using a roster spot to try and get Matt Barnes fixed.
And Barnes that's fine. Like, but the thing is, you can carry Barnes. It's a lot easier when, as we'll get to in a second, you actually have other relievers that you trust.
And right now they don't, because look, they gave Cutter Crawford a look. We said earlier, we thought he might stay up. I think on May 1st, he is a no question, easy decision to go down to Worcester.
I don't agree with that, because I thought he pitched really well 2 days ago in that 3-inning stint.
The piggybacking Whitlock.
Yeah. And
not piggybacking because he came in after Davis, but
he pitched really well that game, and he can give them length. And with the way the team is currently structured, they need multiple guys in that role, because Rich Hill looks like a 4 or 5 inning pitcher. Michael Wacha might be the same. Whitlock, if he's starting, is the same. Houck has similar issues going deep in the game. Like, they need multiple guys who can go multiple innings out of the bullpen. And I think Crawford's stuff is good enough that they'll give him chances to figure it out, because you saw, what he did in that game against Tampa was very impressive. If he can locate, his stuff is excellent. It's among the best of any of the relievers they have on that major league bullpen right now. Problem is his command is in control is bad.
Yep.
And we saw, the previous couple outings, what happens when he's off. So I don't necessarily think Crawford's a clear choice to go down. I think they have to make a move with Sawamura. I just don't like.
Yeah, you've got, to me, the guys you have to look at are Sawamura, Davis, Brazier.
Yeah.
You need to lose 2 guys when Houck and Crawford come back.
But the thing is, we're literally talking about half their bullpen they don't trust.
Right.
And that's the issue.
The thing.
And not having
that coming in.
And not having a set closer means that the roles just get all screwed up, and you have situations like, yesterday, or where Tanner Houck comes in in a multiple run, or what is it? Tanner Howe came in with them behind rather than in the fifth inning. Or sorry, they were saving Howe to close
the last 2 innings.
Yes, they were saving him for the last 2 innings because they didn't have anyone else to close.
Right. It's not great. I mean, yeah, I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know what the answer is internally either.
Well, because as you said, when they come back from Toronto, 2 people have to go down, right?
Yeah. So I think when they come back from Toronto, Schreiber comes off because you added him to replace Crawford.
And Danish does too.
Well, Danish is on the 40 though. So in theory, you could keep him
right.
up.
No, he stays on the 40, but I'm saying he goes down.
No, but I mean, he probably does. I'm saying if you like it, because the thing is, I've heard from at least one person who used to be with the team who didn't know who Danish was, who was like, who is this guy? Everything is moving. I like him. He probably does go back down. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But like, is that the time when you do something with Brazier? Is that the time when you do something?
Well, but that's the thing is that then
3 days later,
you have to
figure something else out.
And Josh Taylor's going to be coming up too.
In theory, he is. The thing is, so he's been on a rehab assignment.
I mean, I saw he got hit hard yesterday. I don't know.
For a week. Well, because what happened is he pitched not this past Sunday, but the Sunday prior in Worcester. Got ruled a close contact and didn't pitch again until Sunday the 24th. So he basically went 6 days without pitching. So he's basically starting his rehab over.
He's gonna be another couple of weeks.
They said he needed 5, 6, 7 hours.
So he's gonna be at least 2, maybe 3 weeks. Okay,
so he's not imminent.
No.
And the interesting thing is they're on a stretch right now where they are playing
every day.
However many games. They played half a month with no off days. Okay. They have an off day on the 2nd, an off day on the 9th, an off day on the 12th. So they play in May. Yeah. So they play 6 games from the 3rd to the 8th. They have an off day. They have a 2-game series and another off day. So they're going to get a bit of a breather here once they get back down.
Well, and they're going to have to send down 2 pitchers though, because the rule,
do a hitter.
Yeah, you can only carry 13 pitchers. That's an actual rule this year. So yeah, they're going to have to make a decision there. And I think that, it's going to be interesting to see what they do there, because I think that will be telling is if they go with the Sawamura, like Brazier Root or Sawamura Davis, Brazier Davis, some combo of that, then it's like, okay, this is, we're not, we have no choice here. Like this is that. But if they don't, I don't know what would be the easy option, I guess, would be just like Crawford and Valdez, just option them.
Yeah. Although I think Brazier's got options and he has
one option, but he's also like 34.
Right. But I mean, you can option him. Like maybe he figures it out in AAA, just to keep depth. And I mean, he won't be happy about it, but it's like then pitch better. Looking at how the AAA pitching staff is, I mean, the interesting one to me in AAA is Darwinzon and Hernandez. The walks are high, but I think most of them it's 8 walks and he's hit a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
It's 8 walks and I think he's hit
4
I'm pulling
or 3
it up right
or something.
now. He's got 4 hit by pitch this year. So that's basically like 12 walks in 10 innings.
Yeah. But he's only given up 2 hits.
Right. He's not getting hit and he struck out 15.
Yeah.
So
that's what
I'm looking. Figure it out.
I was looking at those numbers at the same time, and it's like the guys who they were talking about, like who people were interested in spring training, like Durbin Feldman's been not that exciting. No. Zach Kelly isn't giving up any hits, but his command he's having issues with his control right now.
Yeah, 7 walks in 5 innings. 5
he's giving up innings. 2 hits also though.
Yep. But Caleb Ort, 12 Ks and 6 1/3, but 6 walks.
Yep. Josh Winkowski, who I think he's on the 40.
He's on the 40. He didn't pitch last week because he tweaked his ankle, but he's supposed to pitch this week.
He's having the issues he's had before where he's not missing bats at all. John Schreiber is probably been their best reliever, I would say. And he's up.
And that's why he's up. Yeah.
And then Seabold actually has been pretty good, but the same thing. He's not striking anyone out. So it might be some smoke and mirrors there. So they're in a weird situation where, and we'll get to it a little later, like all the interesting power arms might be in Portland.
It's funny.
Like,
I
that Portland bullpen. I can't remember the last time I saw 3 relievers throwing 96 plus in a row for a Red Sox affiliate.
Yeah.
In a long time. And this was back to back to back, 3 straight guys throwing 96 plus. Cause I got Wallace, Shugart, and German in a row one game.
And you got Politi the next night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Darwinson, I forgot about this. So his first outing, he had not much control. His second outing, Darwinson went 3 innings, didn't walk anybody, didn't give up a hit, struck out 6. That's like, oh, did he figure it out? Then you realize he hit 2 guys. Third outing, 3 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 5 Ks, no hit by pitch. Okay, cool. He's getting it. Last outing on the 21st, an inning and 2/3, 1 hit, 4 walks, a hit by pitch, a home. The 1 hit was a home run, 5 innings, runs allowed, only struck out 1. So he's still working on it. He's still working on it on what they're looking for him to do. But again, it's another 40-man roster spot that's being taken up by a guy who they can't call up. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess, to me, I go back and forth, just doubling back to what they should do with the Casas thing. I see the argument. I get it. And then I just look at something else and it's like, is it time yet? Do you pull the trigger yet?
Well,
do you wait for him to force this? Because the thing is, here's the thing you don't want. Here's the thing you don't want is you don't want him to come up, just be awful, and then you send him back down, and now like you're throwing things even more into a tailspin because now you've like moved guys' roles around to make.
Well, it's also you've added into the 40, and so you lose the flexibility of the Shaw 40-man spot.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think it's going to happen. If I had to guess, I think this is a conversation we're having at the end of May still.
I think so too. I think the end of May is when it becomes more of a reality. If he is still hitting, if Dalbec is still not hitting, because it's got to be Dalbec. Because if Dalbec is hitting, I mean, maybe if like Arroyo and JBJ are still a problem, and you're willing to give Dalbec some run in right field, which I am still extremely skeptical of in Fenway.
I would much rather see him in left field in Fenway, but I guess Verdugo, they don't want to move around right now because he's playing good defense in left.
Yeah. But like, maybe to put Dalbec in the outfield, they would think about it. It's the 40-man flexibility. It's the ramifications if it doesn't work, because now that you've shuffled things around, you got to shuffle them back. I just think there's more that could go wrong at this point. And remember, last year at this time, we were talking about DFA Hunter Renfroe. Like immediately, we wanted him shot on a rocket into the sun, to use the Jay Jaffe term, right? Like he was brutal the first month of the year. Kike Hernandez last year had a brutal first month of the year. Who turns it around after a bad first month with a short spring training? We don't know. And I'm willing to give those guys a little bit more run and be patient. And I do think that's definitely what the Red Sox are going to do. The thing I was thinking about is if Dave Dombrowski was still the GM of this team, or I guess, what was he, the president of baseball operations?
Yeah.
When do you think they pull the trigger on Triston Casas?
I mean, was he president of baseball ops with the Benintendi thing?
Yes.
So that wouldn't be till like the trade deadline or right around then. Wasn't that when Benintendi got called up? Like middle of July?
Yeah, but I mean, that was also when he was ready. I mean, he hadn't been in Portland in Pawtucket very long. That's the thing. Is he had been? Oh no, they called him straight up from Portland.
No, he never played in AAA. He went straight up.
They called him straight up from Portland. So that's what I'm saying. Is like, it's not necessarily the time of year. It's like when is the guy ready is part of it. But maybe it is the time of year because that's when they brought up Devers too.
Yeah.
Although that wasn't Dombrowski, but
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to follow. And I just think though that the longer the other guys struggle, even if Dalbec starts to hit, the more, especially if Casas is hitting, the more people are going to be like, because that's the move. I mean, that's the obvious one.
Yeah, I think my guess is the plan is get by May 1st, see how things shake out. You're going to have to cut your own roster down. Other teams across the league are going to have to cut their rosters down, see what happens, see if anybody becomes available as the cut down happens. Once you get past there, continue to evaluate. And if it's, once you get to a month and a half, 2 months of guys not hitting, then you take the plunge and make a move. You'd alluded to it, Ian. Do we want to move on to what you saw in Portland?
Well, we should do the transactions first.
Okay, I guess. Well, okay. There's not a lot that happened, but fair point. Over the past week, of course, we alluded to it. There's the various COVID-19 related injured list goings on in Boston, but because everybody pretty much other than Houck and Crawford was vaccinated. Guys got back off the IL quickly for the most part, although I guess Jonathan Aruz is still on the IL, and I guess Alex Cora as well is still on the COVID IL. Christian Vasquez went on, as did Kevin Plawecki. So both Connor Wong and Ronaldo Hernandez came up. Vasquez was only down for one game. So Connor Wong started 2 games, didn't play again. And Ronaldo Hernandez didn't actually play. So there's that piece of it. Jonathan Aruz also went on the COVID IL, and that led to Rob Refsnyder coming up. He's played a little bit here and there. I think it's a fine role for him as a bench guy. Not clamoring for him to get more time, but he's been fine. He's acquitted himself well defensively out in right field as well. So he's been pretty solid. Down lower in the minors, or I guess in the minors, not lower in the minors, but in the minors. Some smaller things here and there. What's his name? Eduardo Lopez was activated from the 7-day injured list. Disabled list. Gosh, it's like 2015 here. 7-day injured list in Salem, made his season debut. Clearly was a little rusty in his first game back. He went 0 for 5 with 4 Ks, but slowly shaking the rust off for a guy who's ranked just outside the top 30 in our site rankings. It was good to see him get active down in Salem, where he got promoted to last year, but only played a handful of games because of injury. So he got activated. And the other really noteworthy thing, Ian, for me, not really a transaction, but it looks like Luis Perales, who we heard all kinds of great stuff about coming out of the Tricky League and camp down in the Dominican, but didn't pitch much last year in the Dominican Summer League because of presumably injury, or at least, health-related issues. Just wanted to keep him out of games and not push it, is what we heard. Wasn't in spring training, which was weird to us. He wasn't in the fall performance program last year, which was weird to us. Wasn't in Florida for a while, and we were a little concerned, like, is there just nothing there? And it looks like he has arrived this week in Fort Myers. So good to see him finally get stateside. So we'll probably see him in the Florida Complex League once that starts up in June and July. So good to see him come up. Anything else stand out to you, Ian, on the transaction side that we haven't talked about yet, or otherwise? I mean, the other big news of the week was probably the giant brawl that went down in the Portland game on Thursday. It was too bad you weren't there to report live on it.
Yeah, but I don't know what I would have done. It would have been a very strange circumstance to be like.
And we mean brawl. Like
this was a brawl.
Haymakers. I mean, first of all, to the pitcher, who was it? Harrisburg that they were playing?
No, Binghamton.
Binghamton. Okay. No, Binghamton.
Yes.
Yeah, Binghamton. Yeah, you're right. Why are you starting something
that was not
with
smart?
Tyreek Reed, who is just a large human, and
he's
clearly
also
based on that right hand, like
that wasn't his first time throwing a punch.
No,
but he also is like apparently like lovely and like a very like a great teammate and extremely kind and like not someone you would expect. Like basically for him to react like that, the pitcher must have said something very bad.
Yeah,
that was my takeaway, because like everything from my understanding, Reed's like awesome. Like he's like one of the nicest guys. Like he's not someone you'd expect to do that,
to drop someone.
Yeah. So the pitcher must have said something, because that reaction was very quick and there were definitely words exchanged.
Yeah.
And for him to react that way, I have to imagine the pitcher said something that he very much should not have said.
Well, and that pitcher wasn't in his right mind, because what happens is the pitcher gets just dropped by Reed, and everyone sees the aftermath where he's injured and thinks that Reed did it. No, he got back up
and tried to like pile drive David Hamilton.
Went after David Hamilton, did like a double leg take.
To be fair, size wise, much fairer match than Reed.
Much fairer match. But the thing is, Hamilton had gone in and like, I guess he like felt his hand on his back, because he was trying to like,
he was just trying to be like a peacemaker, because he was on third base. Yeah.
Did John Boy do a breakdown of this yet, by the way?
I don't know.
They need to.
I don't know.
But he like, walks away, like gets blindsided by this guy. And I don't know what happened in the pile.
You can't see because the coaches are on top of it.
But basically, eventually Hamilton gets pulled off of him. And this guy looks like he's been put in like the crippler crossface and had his like limbs just torn from his body.
I think he's reacting. The way it looked like, I thought he like rolled his ankle or something. I don't even know what happened, but it was
he was just kind of like curled up, like just like,
I thought it was like a leg injury is what I meant. Like something happened.
Yeah, I don't know what
he's
happened.
on the DL now. I know that, or the IL.
Yeah, he's on the IL, and it's just like, But anyway, yeah, Reed got suspended coming out of it. Vic Santos, who was the starter that night, got suspended as well. Um, I don't know what happened there, but there were some haymakers being thrown in that brawl. So that was kind of the more interesting thing from the week than anything.
Well, no, the most interesting thing of the week was watching the Portland pitchers strike out like 17 of 30 hitters on Thursday's game or Friday's game.
No, well, which we were there in person, Ian.
I was.
We were.
I was able to
Rented a car to get up there, which that's
well, no. I actually shout out Jake Devereaux of Over the Monster for giving me a ride up on Friday for the game.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's
yeah,
sick. Nice. Dude.
Wanted to shout him out.
Nice. Thanks, Jake.
But yeah, I went up Thursday and Friday and Saturday to Portland. Wanted to catch Brandon Walter and Brian Bayo while I could, and yeah, it was a very interesting look. I mean, the line that Portland lineup's not good. I'll just say that it's not a very good hitting team.
They're not hitting well right now either. Like even for like the prospect wise,
there's like two guys who are hitting well.
Yeah, they're just not.
The only guys hitting well are Koss and I guess three Dearden.
Hamilton's doing fine.
It's Hamilton, Koss, Dearden, and Cottam. And I guess Will Dalton hit an absolute tank one of the games, which I'll get to. But yeah, I mean, realistically, the reason I went was for the pitching, and it didn't disappoint. It was a very interesting group of arms, and it started with on Friday, Brandon Walter, who threw 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts, no walks. So that's
the question is, do you love Walter?
I think he's quite good. Which is interesting though, because his stuff wasn't even like his fastball wasn't as good as I saw it last year.
Oh really? Because I was gonna say last year you saw him and you were like he didn't even have his best stuff, and I liked him.
No, but his velocity, his secondaries were better this time. His changeup was his changeup. Or actually, I gotta get my notes. His secondaries were definitely better this year than I saw him last year. But his fastball velo was down a little bit. When I saw him last year, he was like 2.4, 92, 94. I think he hit like out 95. This outing, he was like 91 to 93 ish. He didn't have anything above 93. And yeah, so the velo was down a little bit, but he's got such good control and the command was good enough that, I would put I think it's like average-ish command. Like he can get away with it being 91 and 93 right now. And especially if he can find that, that extra tick, fastball becomes a lot more playable. But what really carried him was the secondaries. His changeup and slider are both good pitches. Like I think you can put they're both above average to plus depending on how you look at it. And he just has such good confidence in all of his pitches that he just gets the ball. And this was my first game with the pitch clock, which is, by the way, incredible. It should be at every level. And I don't care if the pitchers hate it.
We'll need to have an episode where we talk about that.
It's a remarkable thing. Like we were through 6 innings in like an hour and 10 minutes. Wow. It was insane. And this was also with me trying to video and I was trying to I usually watch the pitchers through one time, do the order, then try to video the 4th inning. He threw a 5-pitch inning when I was trying to video. It was just useless. Nothing happened. So it's just oh, thanks for being super efficient, Walter. Jerk. I'm trying to get some swing and misses here, and you're just gonna, pitch to contact and have 3 balls put in play and 5 pitches. But I think the sliders that really kind of the new slider that everyone likes, the super sweepy long breaker. We're seeing Max Scherzer brought it out tonight, which I think is hilarious that a 39-year-old pitcher is just I'm gonna try this new slider pitch. And it's gonna be probably better than every other one I've seen anyone throw this year. But it's I like it. It's 79 to 83 miles an hour. It's a long 2 to 8 frisbee breaker style pitch, but he would throw it to both lefties and righties. He got swing and misses with it. It was a solid pitch. And then his changeup, 82 to 84, good arm speed, really falls off the table late. And, he got, I think it was, so he had 10 strikeouts. He got 1 with his fastball. Then he got 3 with the changeup, and then the other 6 were with his slider. So, both the slider and changeup showed bat missing ability. And I think I'm not, it's a tough one because he's 26 and he's not like the biggest, it's like it's a fine body, but the delivery is a little weird. Like it's not, your prototypical starter's delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And I do wonder how it would hold up over like, his career high in innings with the Red Sox is like 80. I'm not sure it could hold up over 200 innings, but
he's had one full season.
Right. But then again, no one throws that much anymore. Like no one even goes 100 pitches. So if like you're talking about a guy who could throw like 80 to 90 pitches, I think he probably can.
He's 25, by the way.
Yeah. Sorry. 20. I think he turns 26. Oh, I guess September. But, I think he could be someone who could.
You're thinking the 26th round, which is when he was
That
drafted.
might be what it was. But he could be someone who could be like an 80 to 90 pitch guy, goes 5 innings and be serviceable, I think, in like as like a back end starter. Or flip side, if that doesn't work, I do think his stuff would play in like that long relief, bulk role. Like the Rays would love someone like him, like turn him into like Ryan Yarbrough 2.0, like a better version of that.
Yeah.
The way they use like Jeffrey Springs or like, Jalen Beeks before he got hurt. But I think he's a major leaguer. And I think he's probably the second best starting pitching prospect. Actually, not probably. He's the second best starting pitching prospect in that rotation. And I don't think it's that close, honestly. I think Bayo is clearly one, and we'll get on to him a little later. But I think Walter is definitely past Groom for me. I just think there's way better command profile. And I think both secondaries are better than Groom's curveball, which the way it's regressed. And, he's got 3 pitches that I would put at least a 50 on, this being Walter. So, yeah, I was very impressed with him.
Interesting. So, yeah, I guess I had follow-up questions prepped and you answered them all. So I guess let's jump on. Before we go to Bayo, let's stick with that game and talk about the bullpen.
You want to play reliever roulette?
Reliever roulette, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, and you saw a bunch of guys that I want to hear about in that bullpen. And I mean, that night you saw Jacob Wallace for an inning, Chase Shugart for an inning, and then Frank German for 2 innings, including the extra inning with the zombie runner. And I think they went scoreless for 4 innings, right?
Yeah, they pitched shutout ball for the rest of the game. And I don't think they allowed a hit if I remember my game correctly. I believe they threw it was just strikeouts. Yeah, it was. Yeah. They threw 4 innings, struck out 7, gave up 1 walk. That was it. But yeah, we'll start it off with Jacob Wallace. Wallace is a true 1-inning reliever, and that's the way they're using him, which I don't dispute because his delivery is, I think we talked about when I saw him last year, it's bad. Like
he did throw 2 once this year, but the other 4 outings he threw 1.
There's max effort there. It's he comes across his body but it's also really deceptive because of that. It's just very jerky and violent, and I think it's off-putting for hitters, especially when you're throwing 96 to 98 with life up in the zone, with a hammer breaker at 83 to 84. It's prototypical bullpen stuff. It's the good stuff you like to see out of a bullpen, and as long as he's healthy, I feel pretty comfortable that he will be a major leaguer in the bullpen in some capacity. The concern with him obviously is with that delivery, other than the health, is where's the fastball command and control going to end up at. But he's throwing strikes for me, and we're approaching, I think, where you can feel good about that, because if you combine, last season he had that after he made the mechanical adjustments at, what was it, I think the beginning of August through the end of the season,
something like that.
And then the first month of this season, I think he has 2 walks in 7 innings this year, 6 innings. So, he's throwing strikes, and he's threw quality strikes in the inning. I was a quick inning, it was 3 swing and misses, 2 strikeouts, both on sliders. The hitters had no chance on the slider. And yeah, I mean, I was impressed again with him. It's an interesting, ranking the relievers is going to be an interesting exercise, because the next guy up was Chase Shugart. And he's someone I saw as a starter last year and definitely thought he was a reliever just because of size, delivery, combo of that. But he threw 4 pitches in I think he threw, I don't know, let's look, 13 pitches in the game, I'm going to guess. How many pitches did he threw 13 pitches exactly.
Yeah.
And he showed 4 different pitches out of the bullpen. And I still think that needs to be pared down.
Yeah. That's what he did for me when I saw him start back when he was in Greenville. And it was cool that he had 4 pitches he was comfortable throwing, but it was also just the sequencing was it was like me playing the show or MVP baseball, where it's just kind of my sequencing isn't going to change how the batter attacks the pitch. So I'm just going to throw whatever pitch I feel like throwing here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the thing with Wallace is the fastball 96, 98 with life, you can go plus on that. Slider, I think, is definitely plus. His slider's nasty. With Shugart, his velo is good. He was like 95 to 96, but it's a pretty straight fastball. And then secondary wise, they were all okay. Like, I don't think there's a true bat missing pitch there, and that's what keeps him in the tier below these other guys for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I need to see him again because I only saw 13 pitches. Like, it's tough to, I
Right.
saw like one,
It's not like German where you saw 36.
No, I saw a ton of German, but I saw like, two curveballs, one changeup, and two sliders. Like, it's, it's hard to say that much off of it, but I like the curveball the best of the secondary pitches he threw.
When I saw him in camp, that's how I felt about him too.
But yeah, no, like, he's definitely interesting. And I think that the role that would be interesting for him would be like a multi-inning role, but it seems like, at least in this outing, he was only a 1 inning guy. But I think part of that is because they've just decided German's the closer.
Well, so yes and no. So like, I keep track of the usage of these guys, right? And some years I fall off, but I've been able to keep up so far. Shugart, Wallace, and German have pitched 5 games each, and they've pitched the same game 4 of those times, just with how they rotate through the bullpen.
So they're just kind of like lined up together.
They're just lined up together. And the time that they didn't, Wallace and Shugart pitched the same game the day after German closed. Yeah. So German is finishing those games. He has been the last guy out of the bullpen in those games. So I'm sure that's by design, but it's not like German is being used. And this is what we talked about last episode. It's not like he throws on Wednesday, and because it's a save situation on Friday, they're going to German. Yeah. If there's a save situation on Saturday, then yeah, he's the last guy out of
the bullpen. That was like Politi closed on Sunday.
Yeah, Politi closed on Sunday, or Saturday. Sunday was Mosqueda. Like,
yeah.
No.
Politi. Politi was Saturday. Yeah.
Politi he threw the last inning in a third.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he threw an inning in a third because Brendan Nail only was able to get 1 out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And German stats, I think, of all the relievers, he's had the best start to the season. I mean, 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 unearned run, which was the ghost runner. 13 strikeouts, no walks. He hit 1 guy, and I think he hit them actually in the game I was at.
And it's a zombie runner. If it's $1 in the cookie jar every time you say ghost runner, it's not a ghost runner. I feel very strongly about this.
Whatever.
A ghost runner, there is nobody there. You're pretending. A guy is on the base. He's a zombie runner.
Oh, geez.
I feel strongly about this.
Sure. But German stuff, I mean, it's good. It's very good stuff. He was 95 to 98. Fastball is actually a little hittable when it's down in the zone.
Okay.
But I liked it up in the zone. Like, if he's pitching with it like at the belt, I think he can miss bats up there. But yeah, so he's got to kind of iron out the command a little bit there. But he's got 2 secondaries that can miss bats. He's got a splitter like 84 to 87 with some real late like downward life to it, or like downward, that late diving action. And then he's got a breaking ball, which I think it's a slider, 81 to 86 miles an hour, but he will vary the shape of it. Like, some are more vertical, some are more horizontal. And it was interesting watching him because I think it's deliberate. He's definitely like adding and subtracting velo to it and like varying the shape depending on like the handedness of the hitter, the count, things like that, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's something actually Bayo was doing too. But yeah, I mean, he got 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, 3 on the slider, 1 on the splitter. He got 7 swing and misses. Like, it's good stuff. And between, I think Wallace and German are the 2 like top guys in that bullpen for me. And if I had to say, like, I think Wallace has the best individual pitch, but I think in his slider, but I think German has a much better. Well, I don't think German has a much better delivery. And I think I feel more comfortable with his like command and health profile long term. So it's going to be interesting, comparing and contrasting and following those 2 as we get deeper into the season. But it was very fun to watch, after Walter just breezed through 6 innings to see 3 true power arms coming out and closing out the game for that Portland team.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a nice bullpen. And then I guess looking at the guy who's starting now, and I was alluding to this earlier. I was just kind of stirring things up a little bit on Twitter, where I alluded to the fact that if Whitlock couldn't make the start this past weekend against Tampa Bay, the Worcester guy lined up was like Thomas Pannone. So it was just kind of like, okay, he's not making the start. I was like, well, They do have a 40-man pitcher lined up to make that start. But would they call him up? I mean, they're not going to call Brian Bayo
No,
up.
they're not. They're not
But
going to call him up. And
that was just
I
me
don't think
being
he's
cheeky.
not ready either.
That was just me being cheeky. But it's just kind of like, but with what we're seeing from him, Ian, I mean, it seems like he's a guy who might be up before too long in some kind of role if they need him. But for now, the development's going well.
Yeah, I think that I would leave him where he is and let him kind of pitch most of the season as a starter. And if you're really going to call him up, it would be as a reliever at the end of the season. But it was good. It wasn't his best outing. I thought he was kind of like coasting, actually. Like the first 3 innings, he threw 3 perfect innings, except he wasn't really missing bats. I think he had like 1 strikeout the first time, or 2 strikeouts and 3 whiffs the first time through the order. He was just kind of like pitching to contact. But as he got deeper into the outing, he started kind of ratcheting it up. And I think the most impressive thing to me was his changeup is really gotten good. I think, back in early stages of his development, it was his 3rd pitch, and it is by far his best pitch now. And
Interesting.
That he was throwing it with confidence. He threw it a ton. Like he got 11 of his 16 whiffs were on the changeup. He had one sequence to Ronnie Mauricio in his final,
I've heard of him.
The final batter he faced of the game, and he tripled up on it. Just 3 straight, all whiffs. Just like Mauricio had no chance against it. Mm-hmm. And it was just interesting the way he was using it. Like he threw it any count, any hitter, both righties and lefties. And I'm a sucker for a guy who will throw like a right changeup. I think if you could throw that pitch comfortably, then you clearly have a ton of confidence in it, because that's obviously going right down into the swing path of righties usually. And he had no problem doing that. I mean, it was most effective against lefties, but he definitely would throw it against righties also. And I mean, it's just a very good pitch, even though it's 87 to 89 miles an hour. Like,
yeah, that's a hard change.
Very hard. But I mean, he was throwing like 94 to 97. So, it works. And the last thing was Bayo he's got his slider also. And I actually didn't think it was that good. It was like inconsistent. He threw a couple that were like 50, 55s. Then he threw a bunch that were like 40s and 45s.
Right.
But kind of like what I was talking about with German, he definitely varied the shape. Like early in counts, he kind of threw it more like it looked more like a curveball that he was like getting over to get a strike. And then he would add more tilt to it later in the counts when he was trying to go for whiffs. And I think it looked deliberate to me, because it was pretty consistent throughout the game that early counts was like more like 11-5, more vertical. Later in the counts was more horizontal, more tilt. But it was like 83 to 86 miles an hour. I think there's definitely potential there, potential develop into like a 55-ish pitch. And, I mean, we're talking about a guy with potentially 3 55 plus pitches. That's really good. And the question is going to be command profile. Right now, it's below average control. Command's not there. It's definitely a work in progress. But he held velo, which was good. That was definitely a concern I've had in the past, but he was still bumping 97 in the 5th inning.
Right.
So, if you're holding that, and like, for example, like Chi-Jung Liu, someone who also has had a velo uptick this year, his velo drops off pretty quickly. He'll start off 94 to 97, but by the 5th inning, he's throwing like 92, 93. There was nothing with Bayo. It was consistent 94 to 97 throughout the entire game. Like his last fastball was 94. His second to last fastball was 97. So, he held it, which was impressive. And I like his arm. It's really loose, very quick, and delivery has some effort. He's not the biggest guy, which I think definitely contributes to it, but there's a lot of ingredients there, a lot of boxes to be checked. And with this changeup, which, I mean, in this outing, I think you could go above a 60 on it. He checks a lot of the boxes. And if that pitch is taking the next step to be like a true MLB quality, better than plus out pitch, then that's a game changer for him. That moves him from, that kind of back end or high leverage relief type into more of like this might be a mid rotation starter.
Right. It's a special arm. So, I mean, he's very clear number one for you, obviously, in the system.
Oh yeah. He's the best pitching prospect in the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's the 4th best prospect in the system.
Yeah. We'll talk about that next week. Just sneak preview.
Yeah.
All right, and I guess just to close there, anyone else that you saw lineup or bullpen wise that you wanted to mention really quick? I mean, I know we talked generally about things, but did anyone else?
I think just the best hitter or the best position player prospect was David Hamilton. I don't think that's much of a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I saw his best game in a while. He was he had a home run. I think he was on base like 4 times or 3 times in the game.
Three for 5 with a home run, and let's see, he got caught stealing.
He got caught stealing. He had 2 singles too.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's not a power swing. Let's just get that out there. Like it's a pretty contact oriented short swing. He just got the perfect pitch for a lefty, which was a fastball down and in. And he was able to just like open the hips and just really clear it out. So it's a little pull power, but it's mostly just kind of line drives into the gap, put the ball in play and run. He's got good speed. Second base arm looked pretty fringy. I'm not sure there's enough for shortstop based on that look, but I saw him play shortstop, but I don't think he fielded a ground ball, honestly, the entire time I was there.
He and Casas have been swapping back and forth playing time between second and short.
Yeah. So I need to see more with him defensively, but I was not impressed. His arm was fine, but it was fine at second base, but I'm not sure about shortstop.
Actually, let me just jump in. I should mention Casas has been getting more of the run at short.
Yeah, I mean, Casas is a good defender in my opinion, and so Hamilton, I like the speed, I like the contact skills. He's got a good eye at the plate. He knows what he's doing. Like, I think he's someone who could put up decent OBPs. I think my concerns are that his lack of strength will be exploited. I'm afraid major league pitchers will just be like, okay, you're not going to hit a home run off us. Like, we're going to challenge you with fastballs up and prove that you have to prove that you can hit them. And that's my one concern with him is, if that's the case offensively, and then he's not a shortstop, like it's kind of like a intermediary role. Like, he's not an everyday. I don't think there's enough bat to be an everyday second baseman.
Right.
But but if he could play everyday shortstop, like maybe there is enough bat, but I don't think there's enough glove to be a shortstop. So I think it's kind of like a bench profile, but with his speed, he's got a very good chance, especially in a system that is pretty devoid of speed. So I like him. Casas, I also like. He actually wasn't that, he didn't do anything that impressive. In the game I saw him. Yeah, because he didn't play in the second game. But he's when he is not whiffing, and that's definitely a concern I have. I think he had like 6 whiffs in the game, not strikeouts, but like swing and misses. Because I'm trying to track like things like that, or I track stuff like that when I'm at the games, and there's definitely some in zone swing and miss concerns, but I like his defense at short. He showed plus range, good arm. And I think he's got a chance. It's a good body. He's athletic, got the defense to carry. There's a little bit of pop. If he can keep the strikeouts down, that's going to be the concern for me. And he's got to work on the approach. Like, I don't think he's walked this year. No, that can't be right.
This is who?
No, I don't think he has walked this year. I think he's been hit like 3 times. Casas. Triston Casas. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
But he's definitely got to work on the approach. Like, he's pretty aggressive. There's, as I said, a lot of swing and miss, and
he has not walked yet this year.
Yeah,
you are absolutely right.
Yeah. So that's the one concern I have is like, what is the hit tool going to get to?
Has he been hit?
He's been. Yeah, I saw him get hit.
He's been hit 3 times.
Yeah, I saw him get hit, so I was like, I know he's that. And I'm just looking. I didn't realize. So he's actually one of their better hitters. I didn't realize his numbers were as good as they are. So he's hitting like 321.
He's having a pretty good year. I mean, it's him, Hamilton, Cole Cottom is hitting, and then they've got a couple other guys who are having pretty good years in Dearden and
Eli Morera.
Devlin Granberg, since he's come off.
He's
come off the IL.
But yeah, so he's got to cut down on the Ks, get that walk rate up a little bit. But he's interesting. Cole Cottom, as you said, it's just too much swing and miss for me. I don't know what his strikeout rate is this year. I'm going to guess it's not very good. But
Cole Cottom, I'll pull it up right now. Cole Cottom, he had striking out at a 29.5.
Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, they've got a bunch of guys. I mean, Eli Morero's at 32, Tyreek Reed's at 33, Izzy Wilson's at 34, Hudson Potts is at 36, Will Dalton's at 38, Brandon Howlett's at 51.
Yeah, they strike out a lot. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's just kind of like fringy-ish to me. But he's got some bat control. You know, he can hit a little bit. There's not great bat speed though. If he can catch, you know, maybe he could be like an up and down guy, but I'm not convinced on the catching part either. Dearden actually I think has like the best approach of that group. He walks a lot, but he's pretty passive, which I don't love. But he hits the ball hard when he makes contact, and he's got a decent little swing, so he's someone I kind of like. But yeah, I mean the bottom of the order was pretty rough. You know, guys like Cameron Cannon, Hudson Potts, Brandon Howlett, just a ton of swing and miss there. And when you combine that with kind of like the lack of defensive value, it's tough profiles with a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I mean the number of guys they have with sub 700 OPSs that play regularly, it's a tough lineup.
Yeah, but I will give a shout out Will Dalton. Will Dalton is someone who he looks great in a baseball uniform, and like when you see him, you're like, okay, that guy's a player. And when he makes contact, he goes really far if he hits in the air, but he just doesn't make the contact that much. But he had an absolute bomb home run. It was like 108 miles per hour off the bat, just turned on fastball. So.
Well, I kind of tough timing. He actually got hurt making a catch on Sunday, and he went on the IL today. Yeah, he left the game in the 7th, I think, after making a catch running into the wall.
Yeah, because he was actually hitting 348, 385, 696. So he's off to a good start.
Yep.
But yeah, that was kind of the bats are a little light, but you know, we'll see him again because there's some other pitchers I need to check out when I
absolutely
later in the season.
A lot of season left. All right. Well, thank you for the update from Portland, Ian. And I guess at this point we'll move on to close the show as we always do with your emails. If you want to send us an email, send it to podcast@soxprospects.com. As we always like to say, we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. So let's get to our emails without any further ado. Ian, our first email comes from Mad Dog. He says, "Hello guys. I was wondering what you guys think goes down who you think goes down once the 28-man roster ends. It seems like Cutter and Brazier are obvious, but then you'd need a third for Taylor." We talked about that. But thank you for the email, Mad Dog. We appreciate it. Our next email comes from Aaron Meta followed up on his last email, which he sent the email after we recorded, but before the podcast came out. And he said, because it's so on brand for the podcast, Red Sox stats brought to you by Chico's Bail Bonds shared this data point. Garrett Whitlock, 9 2/3 innings pitched, 119 pitches, 21 whiffs. He's thrown more innings than Walker, Houck, Hill, and Pivetta, each having made 2 starts. I guess maybe we can get into it a little bit longer next episode, Ian, but do you keep Garrett Whitlock in the rotation coming out of Toronto?
Yeah,
assuming he throws well.
It's a very interesting question because he's their best reliever, and I would not rule out him being their best starter right now either.
That's why I want to keep him in the rotation, especially if he can go 6. If you get a 6-inning start out of him,
the thing is, I think they need
like
to decide though. That's the thing. Yeah. They can't keep yo-yoing him, and they can't use him. I understand the value of him piggybacking like Rich Hill or Walker, but with the way the rest of the bullpen is constructed, I don't think you can do that. I think you either have to use him as like a 1-inning or 2-inning late inning reliever, or let him start. I would love for him to be in that bridge role, but I just don't think you can because they don't trust anyone else.
I think really what it is he throws 3 innings piggybacking Walker or Hill, and then in the intervening 4 days you find a spot for him to throw an inning late.
That's I guess, but the thing is,
he throws more innings than those starters,
right? But I don't think they were using him that way, though.
I mean, they were kind of, but part of that was also, I mean, let's see. So before he made the start, Whitlock threw 2 1/3 on opening day behind Eovaldi. He threw 4 innings behind Hill on the 12th. He threw 2 1/3 following Houck on the 16th. He threw 1 inning on the 19th.
And that was only because they knew. And that was only because they knew
they were lining him up for the start. Yeah. So I mean, it's tough to tell. It's tough to tell because they didn't really.
But before that, he was pitching basically every 4 days without anything in between. Yeah,
5 days, 3 days off, 3 days off. Yeah, so every 4th day, those first 3 turns.
Yeah. So like, you can't really sneak an inning in there.
Yeah, that's true. So
that's why if the bullpen was constructed differently, I'd be fine with using him in that role. But just with the way it's constructed, I think he has more value as as basically like a 1 or 2 inning guy who can go 3 times in 7 games or 6 games versus a guy who's pitching once every 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
Unless he's in the starter. Unless he's a starter. If you're going to make him a starter, fine.
You want the most innings out of him is what it is. You want your best pitchers throwing the most innings. That's the idea behind starting pitching.
Yeah.
It's just that how many innings is that? All right. Our next email comes from Brian. He says, "Hi, Chris and Ian. First of all, really appreciate the work you guys do and information you provide. It's truly invaluable as an avid Red Sox fan. For my question, with all the contracts that end after this season, is this team purposefully built with a self-destruct button if it underperforms? I know it's been widely talked about how at the end of the year, JD Martinez, Eovaldi, JBJ, Vasquez, TK Hernandez, Michael Wacha, Rich Hill, Matt Strom, Hansel Robles, Kevin Plawecki, and Travis Shaw all have the end of their contract. We all, of course, know about Xander's opt-out, and he's sure to use it. If for this season, for whatever reason, is a clunker, do we see the front office completely blow it up and get whatever they can for these players? It wouldn't do well for retaining players like Xander, Eovaldi, Hernandez, or JD afterward. Could this also be part of the reason why they haven't been more aggressive with extension offers so that they could strip this team if desired? Just curious about whether or not you think this is completely done on purpose for this reason or not. I understand the current regime isn't responsible for when Xander's, JD's, and Eovaldi's deals end, but they all seem worthy of some sort of extension discussion. Continue the great work, Brian." I don't think it's on purpose a self-destruct button for this season, Ian. Do you? I think it's just more they haven't given out long-term contracts.
No, I think it's just kind of like they will give out long-term contracts, as we've shown, like the Whitlock extension, which I don't even remember if we talked about that.
I don't think we did, but I mean, they signed Garrett Whitlock to a long-term extension,
which is great.
Good.
Yes.
That's
but like the Whitlock extension story, like I think they're more than happy to go long-term deals. It's just the way they're currently trying to like reset everything and get things lined up money-wise. It just doesn't make sense to give long-term deals. So I think that, it's way too early to speculate on if they're going to like blow up and trade everyone at the deadline. I mean, who knows? But I don't think I think it's definitely deliberate that they're setting it, that they are basically giving out a bunch of like maybe a little higher AAV, but shorter term deals, because I think that's the way the baseball is going. Like teams don't want to have long-term financial commitments because, especially with pitchers, I think because just they get hurt a lot and things change really drastically in baseball. And I think that, teams are really valuing it's the only guys you want under contract long-term. And this is just the way the system is designed, is rookie scale guys, guys who are, pre-ARB and ARB guys. After that, the only guys you want, signed for more than 2 or 3 years are going to be the super studs. Mm-hmm. Other than that, and we saw it this offseason, if you're not one of those high at, top 5, 10% of players, the odds of you getting a significant multi-year deal, that's longer than 2 or 3 years is pretty low.
There's no such thing anymore.
There's no middle tier anymore.
There's no more such thing as a 4-year, $8 million deal.
The only people who get those are like relievers, but they get like 324. That's
what I'm saying. No one gets more than a 3-year deal at that range anymore. There's no more 4, 5, 6-year deals at short money. I mean,
and you look even this offseason, like Carlos Rodon took 1 year. Like Michael Conforto literally didn't take a contract, is not playing this year. Like a bunch of guys. Yeah, Correa took a 1-year deal. Essence,
that's different. That's kind of
somebody's
agent.
Yeah, but that's the way baseball is just evolving, and I think teams have realized that you want cost control, young players, you pay your studs, and then you figure out the middle tier with short-term guys or trades.
Yep,
and that's kind of just the way rosters get constructed now.
Right. Our next question comes from Mike. He says, "Hey, Chris and Ian, I've been thinking about this a lot lately and was wondering, throughout your tenure, which highly touted prospects you were both most surprised couldn't put it together and ended up not becoming what you thought they would be, or someone you wanted to live up to the hype that just simply couldn't? Thanks for reading and keep up the great work, fellas. Sincerely, Mike." Ian, I think we did this one like 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago. A prospect who we thought would do better than they did. I feel like we've done this one recently. I mean, does anyone really quick come to mind for you? You can just name the name. I mean, because we talked about like Garrett Cicchini. We talked about
I think Alan Webster. I thought Alan Webster was going to be very good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think Webster's probably a good one. I'm just
Lars Anderson is kind of a big one, obviously.
I'm just going back through old draft classes to try and see if there's anyone obvious that I missed. Yeah, I think that Webster's probably a good example. And what was the other part? Was it someone who exceeded?
No, it's just another way of asking the same thing. Wanted to live up to the hype, but simply couldn't.
Well, I mean, the answer there is, and I think it's not by his fault, would be Westmoreland. Like what could have been with him is still one of the great baseball what ifs.
Right. All right. Our next email comes from Will. He says, imagine the Red Sox and Orioles switched places in the 2020 standings, giving the Red Sox pick number 5 instead of number 4. Let's say the Orioles pick Marcelo Meyer at 4. Who do you think the Red Sox would have picked with and without the benefit of hindsight? That's a tough one, Ian. So pulling up.
I'm building up the draft right now.
21 MLB draft.
Well,
so the way it falls is Henry Davis goes 1, Jack Leiter goes 2, Jackson Jobe goes 3, and Marcelo Meyer still goes 4. The Orioles took Colton Cowser at 5.
I don't think the Red Sox. I think they take one of the other shortstops. I would guess. I don't know.
My guess is Jordan Lawler.
Yeah, I would guess Lawler, but I would guess it would be one of Lawler, House, or Khalil Watson.
Yeah,
would be my guess there. And what was the other part in hindsight? Well, it was just
with or without the benefit of hindsight, and I think the answer is probably the same. I would have said Lawler then, and I would say Lawler now.
The answer's the same. It's one of the shortstops now.
I mean, look, if you're fishing for would they have taken Kumar Rocker, I don't think they would have. No, given the questions,
there's zero chance they would have taken him, in my opinion. It's interesting though. It's going to be really fun to watch. Like this shortstop class from this draft is insane.
Bonkers.
Like Lawler is hitting. I was just bringing up. Lawler's hitting 354, 484, 563 so far.
All right.
Like Watson has some of the most electric bat speed I think I've ever seen on a video. He also has had to be removed from several games because of like not running out ground balls and stuff. But yeah, he's hitting 294, 339, 627. I think but it goes further than that. Like Brady House is hitting well. Max Muncy's hitting well. Like Carson Williams is hitting well. Like this class could be really good.
Yeah.
And it's going to be I always enjoy looking back and kind of monitoring the draft selections after the Red Sox to see. So we can play, the hindsight is 2020 in a few years. And it's going to be definitely a fun class to follow. But I mean, let's be honest, the Red Sox are ecstatic with who they ended up with. I mean, Meyer looks incredible. So
no question. Thanks for the email, Will. Moving on to our next email. It is from Austin. He says, hey guys, it's probably too early to ask for numerous reasons. It's that question we get every year, Ian. But who do you have as 40-man roster additions this winter? We get this one way too early every year, as alluded to. I mean, look, at this time last year, we wouldn't have said Cutter Crawford. We wouldn't have said other guys who were considered. Just going down quickly, I mean, some guys who they have some very, very interesting questions they're going to have to answer. So obviously, Tristan Casas is a no-brainer. He will be on the roster before then. Looking really quickly down the list, just naming off some guys as I see them, Ian. It's interesting that Briner Bonacy is going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. I don't think he gets protected, though.
No.
Brendan Salucci won't get protected. Cole Cottom, we'll see where that winds up. My guess is probably not.
No, Cole Cottom's not getting protected.
Nick Decker's not getting protected. Let's see. Ryan Fitzgerald probably gets protected if he's not already on the 40, right? That seems like a pretty clear one. Frank German, I think, no question, gets protected if he's not all the way already on the 40. Here's an interesting one for you. And by the way, one of the things we probably should mention, Wilkelman Gonzalez.
I mean, he's going to have to be protected.
He's going to have to be protected. That's a tough one.
I mean, I'm looking at, there's a lot of guys that they need to protect.
They have a ton of guys. So
wow.
Wilkelman Gonzalez, David Hamilton.
I don't think they would protect Hamilton just based on the fact that there are way more guys below him that I'm seeing them having to protect.
Gilberto Jimenez.
He's not getting protected.
Jimenez not?
No.
Interesting.
I don't think so.
Christian Koss.
I don't think he would be, but he might but you get down further. Chris Murphy's going to have to be. Savannah Rafaela is going to have to be.
Yep. Rafaela. Absolutely.
Yeah. Noah Song. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's a Thad Ward Brandon Walter, they're going to have to be. Jacob
Brandon
Wallace.
Walters, no question.
Like,
Jacob Wallace, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot. This is, we'll
revisit
this.
This is the backup of Jacob, like you said, Jacob Wallace, of all the guys who like didn't advance a level because there was no 2020 season.
Yeah.
They should all be in AAA and AA, but they're a year behind.
We're also seeing the backup of not having a Rule 5 draft this year. Like, there's several. I would not be surprised if a couple of these guys would have been selected and be on other teams right now. But
that's true.
Because they're not, it's going to be. I would not be surprised. The Red Sox will be making a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 trade at some point, I suspect, this offseason, or they'll do what they did a couple years ago with the Christian Koss. Was it Yohan Ibar Christian Koss deal?
Yeah.
Where they punted it down the line. Like, they're going to have to do some creative stuff here because there's no way they're going to add all the guys we just listed there.
And that doesn't even count guys like Zach Kelly, who are going to be minor league free agents.
Yeah. So there's no way.
Sign those guys. Yeah. Very, very interesting offseason that they're going to have. But again, we got to get a lot more data on that. Because think about it, like this time last year, we would have been incredulous at the idea of not protecting Jimenez, right? Because we would have thought, oh, he'll be in Greenville and da-da-da.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, that's the end. Again, podcast@soxprospects.com. Hit us up with your questions, thoughts, concerns, ideas, anything you want to run by us for the next episode of the show. And that's it for now, though. So we are going to wrap this up. Thank you to you all for downloading and listening. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow the site on Twitter and Instagram at Sox Prospects. Follow Ian at Ian Cuddle. That's INCUNDLL. And follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. Of course, plenty going on the Twitter machine, whether or not Elon Musk just makes it one giant Tesla advertisement. And of course, we want to thank all of our supporters on patreon.com/Sox Prospects. And as always, we want to shout out our $5 level supporters. That's Kyle C., Tyler Wooddraw, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kennan, Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Al Mendel, Kevin Katrides, Ben NRI, Paul Denyer, Lendl Martin, James P. McMahon, Stephen Gregory, James Bailey, Andreas Goldstrand, Corey Perrick, Forrest Perkins, Mark Herman, Aaron Meta, Jeff Harwood, Jimmy Mountain, Brian Cowan, Dusty G., Pavel, Jordan Shabbat, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Bob Introne, Mike Kawano, Chris Bollier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Keith Fox, Caleb Farron, John Kane, Andrew K., Tim Ware, Michael Murphy, Kyle Sanborn, Jason Stoneburner, Jack Monahan, and our newest $5 level patron, Sam D. Thank you all so much for your support. We're getting close to that Bad News Bears episode of the podcast for patrons only. For Ian, I'm Chris. We'll be back in your eardrums next week. Rankings update, some more minor league talk. We'll have plenty to talk about, and we will be back in your eardrums then. Thanks, everybody.